All right, why don't we get started? So welcome everyone to the sixth and final edition of the webinar series around perimenopause, menopause, and everything in between. I think most of you are already very, very familiar with our two experts, Dr. Shilpa Saxena, who is the Chief Medical Officer of Forum Health, and Jocelyn Sigal, who is the APRN, who's been answering many of your questions. And in fact, there is a website with all past questions that have been asked and answered, as well as all past video clips. And so if you haven't seen it, it's in the description section of the WhatsApp group. And Sneha will make sure to also put it on the actual WhatsApp group for you to review. But this is the last of the six, and we have some pretty exciting stuff coming down the pike on this. It will be announced in the next couple of weeks. So stay tuned. But in the meanwhile, the last session, the one that we want to be covering today is called Designing Your Menopause and Longevity Action Plan. And that's a theme that we will start off in this 1 hour session, but is going to be a topic that will be covered even in ongoing programs in the future. Because our goal is by the time you're done with this, you should be able to be your own advocate. And to be your own advocate, it's easier said than done. Our goal is to provide you all the tools, and that allows you to have better conversations with your own healthcare providers that you go to on a more regular basis. So with that said, I'd love to hand over to Dr. Shilpa Saxena and Jocelyn Sigal the stage to take this forward.
Well, thank you. And I really am very happy to welcome you all back to our last webinar series. I can't believe it's already been, 6 weeks, right? Well, longer than that, because we have like 2 weeks. It's every other week, but it seems like a long time. And I just want to say thank you again for spreading the word. It's amazing how much we've grown. I hope that you are not, I hope that we've exceeded your expectations of what this webinar was about. I'm just thrilled that we have another hour with you today to explore your questions too as well. Dr. Saxena today, she's going to bring it all together. So everything that we've learned in the last 5 sessions is going to kind of terminate into today with the focus on developing and designing your own plan where you could focus on self-compassion, growth, and lifelong empowerment. And that's what our goal is today. And we'll talk about some other things, bring up other important therapies that we've discussed in the past. Dr. Saxena, anything you would like to add?
No, just a reminder that we generally like to talk and discuss things between Jocelyn and ourselves, and we definitely want to hear from you. So use the chat function to ask your questions. Most of the time we'll wait until the end to answer them, but Jocelyn is very attentive and may find a question in the chat that she may want to address earlier. So just be sure to keep asking your questions to us, because that's why we're here, to serve you.
Okay, so on that note, we're going to get started because we'd like to finish a little bit earlier to answer any of the questions and have more of an open dialogue with everyone. So on that note, Dr. Saxena, how can women create that personalized plan for managing their symptoms and staying healthy long-term?
It's a great question. That's a big question because a lot of your plan depends on where you are. So our goal is to help find people as early in the process as possible, meaning if you can understand what's coming down the hatch with perimenopause, well, you're better prepared than to not wait too long with a sleep disturbance or a hot flash or a brain fog. This could be the sign. The questions to be asking your family as to, could this be going on? The other thing is that, we might be finding you at perimenopause where you're in the literal heat of it. And you're trying to figure out, okay, what are my options right now? Do I have to wait until I'm fully menopausal? And or you might be in the full menopause, haven't had a period or vaginal bleeding for 365 days. You are officially menopausal and you have a different set of goals. You're like, okay, that set of ovaries is shut down for business. What can I be doing to regain as much health and vitality that I had when my ovaries were providing more estrogen and progesterone? And what kinds of things could I strategically be doing to protect my brain, my bones, my body, all the things. So a personalized plan first starts with understanding where you are in the timeline. What are you dealing with, or what are you anticipating? And at the base of every personalized plan, we've got to know that you want to just start with small, actionable goals. Okay. You do not have to figure everything out about your hormone plan before you can begin. You can start with better nutrition. Just increasing protein intake before you exercise, for example, would be huge. Perhaps it's that your action plan step that you want to take on is mental health, and you're just going to work on organizing your life to be less stressful, overwhelming, chaotic, anything to reduce cortisol, which plays a role in your hormone health. So the biggest lesson is here, as we're talking about all these options, is personalizing it to where you are in the timeline and what you can do. Okay. I can list 15 things for you to do. I mean, people give me 15 things to do all the time. And if I can only do 5 of them, that's the one I'm going to look at those 5 and then say, okay, which one can I start right now that will give me the greatest return on my investment of time? Because I'm just going to assume that you don't have a ton of time. If you're listening to this webinar, I already know you're proactive and that you're intelligent, and you're probably busy in life doing the things that you need to do. So we need to use your time most effectively. So let's keep asking more questions so that you can then decide, hey, what might be my first step or second step based on where I am?
How about, let's be a little more specific to like the key habits that women can develop to continue to thrive, not just now through perimenopause or menopause, but even after menopause.
Great. So let's just talk about kind of the baseline stuff, like I don't know if I can even come up with a top 10. I'm going to try to do it on the fly. They're not in any particular order. But if I were to pick 10 things you can consider, let's start. Again, not in any particular order because my brain is coming up with them real time. So here's some of the things I would say. Number 1, nutrition. I want you to eat healthy fruits and vegetables. Eat vegetables twice as much as you would eat fruits. Try to get in 5 to 9 servings a day. That's called a plant-based diet. You don't have to be vegan or vegetarian. You just have to have a lot of fiber, a lot of plant nutrients, because that will help your gut health, which is very important for hormone health. It will also help decrease the chance that you're going to want to get full off of these refined sugars, refined grains. It's going to get you full on things that are super valuable to your body. And then the other part of nutrition, so that's rule number 1, plant-based, plant foundational diet with fiber and like diversification of veggies. So when I say veggies, I don't mean white potatoes. I don't mean yellow corn. I mean low glycemic impact vegetables. You can Google that word and you'll find a bunch of them. Now, number 2 on nutrition will be protein, clean protein, whether you're a vegetarian, vegan, or omnivore, get in protein. And when? Specifically around exercise and breaking your fast in the morning. Okay, that's number 2. Number 3, sleep. Okay, we talked about sleep a lot, didn't we, Jocelyn? One of the things Jocelyn brought up was make sure you don't have sleep apnea. That just makes it so much harder to get better. So that's number 3. If you snore, make sure you don't have sleep apnea. Number 4, if you are having a sleep disturbance, that is making it harder for anything to get better. And one of the earliest signs of perimenopause and or menopause is sleep disturbance. Please evaluate, look at the lectures and see if you would be a good candidate for progesterone, because progesterone overall is super safe for so many women, and it's protective and it can help your sleep. Okay, we're on number 5, right, Jocelyn?
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk exercise. We talked about bone health and the importance of muscle. So we talked about how women need to be more active in general. So number 5 could just mean get off your butt every hour for 5 minutes. Okay. That might be the big goal. Every hour, get 5 minutes of movement in. Go to the kitchen sink and do some dishes. Go take the laundry over. Or if you're at your office, do some squats, do some side leg lifts, or do a little bit of wall push-ups. I don't care. Every hour while you are awake, 5 minutes of activity. That's number 5. Number 6, if you're going to do more formal exercise, prioritize strength training. And the strength training that has been shown to be most helpful for this group of perimenopausal, menopausal women is heavy strength training. So if 5 pounds is too easy for your arms, you need to push it to 10. If 10 is too easy, push it to 15. You want to do reps. You want to do weights as heavy enough that you could do good form and get 4 to 6 reps out. I think that was number 6. Number 7, I'm going through my pillars in my head: nutrition, sleep, exercise. And now I've made it to stress management and mind-body medicine. So we've talked about compassion. Ooh, women lack compassion. If you could, this is a big one, like give yourself a break. If that means you need 30 minutes a day of carve out, nobody talk to me, I need to do my thing that gets me into that vagus nerve relaxation mode, carve it out. You deserve it. That's number 7. Number 8, you need to simplify your life. We got superwoman complexes. Being a modern woman is very different than it was to be a pioneer wife 200 years ago. Okay. Responsibilities and expectations are different. And just know the human body can only handle so much. We were not designed to do some of the things that we think we're meant to do. So simplify your work list. Okay. That's a form of self-care and stress management. What number are we on? 9?
I will call it 9.
If we're going to say 9, let's see. 9, find a social group that lifts you. That people say, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. Well, if you want to know if you're going to be healthy in the future, start aligning yourself with people who are trying to do healthier habits, because they will rub off on you. And number 10, well, is there one that you just like, Dr. Saxena? Why haven't you said this one?
Well, you covered nutrition, physical stress, physical activity, stress reduction, social connections, your personalized care.
Okay.
I think also,
if you don't have one, I got one.
Oh, good. Let's hear it.
Okay. Y'all need to remove toxins from your diet slowly, not just your diet, from your body. So that means we talked about how detoxification is a very important thing for hormone health. Detoxification means having a happy liver. Having a happy liver means eating cruciferous vegetables, which is like those smelly ones that have sulfur compounds: broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, bok choy, those kinds of things. That's one way to support your liver. The other way is to be a good pooper, a daily great bowel movement, at least 1 to 3. The other thing you want to do is stop putting more garbage into your body. Things like perfumes and, food coloring and candles, scented candles that are toxic. What else? Alcohol. You want to look at how much alcohol. There's so much data that shows more than 2 alcoholic units per week for a female. No good. Yep, you heard me. 2 per week. Anything above that? Alcohol is just a flat out toxin. Now, I get that it plays a big role in many people's social calendar. But if you want to be in alignment with what the data says, alcohol, not good for your liver, not good for your hormones, not good for your brain, not good for cancer. So that's another thing you could do, is just reduce alcohol if you're above 2. All right, those are 10. Woo!
Ooh, that's great. Yeah, that actually, just for you explaining more into that nutrition and being more specific like that, I think it's very helpful, because in our daily relationships with our patients, I mean, we always add nutrition and we talk about gut detox. And, my principle has always been, even when I was a conventional primary care provider, was my little dialogue and my little I would give them a little chat session and say, okay, I need you to learn how to eat clean and green. Okay. So clean water, clean food. Green, meaning more plant-based, like Dr. Saxena said. And my concept is that what's natural here on earth is what's meant to be eaten. And what man has created cannot be digested.
Oh, I like that. I call it, depending on what your slant is, you can call it God food or nature food against man food. And like, if God wanted you to drink alcohol as your main hydration, it would be flowing in the rivers. And it's not. Cookies don't grow on trees. Fruits and vegetables are what comes out of the earth for our evolutionary benefit. Thank you for bringing up water. One of the simplest things you could do is start drinking. Let me see if I can get this into focus, from either stainless steel or glass. That's it. Glass, stainless steel, no plastic, no aluminum, none of that stuff. And remember, you're 70% water. So water leaches, and stainless steel and glass don't leach anything of concern. So if you're 70% water and the water you're drinking is coming out of plastic bottles that have been sitting in a heated truck or, in your heated car, you're drinking water with plastic. And plastic is a very well-known hormone disruptor. So one of the simplest things you could do is stop drinking from anything other than a glass or a stainless steel container. There are some people who can handle copper, but if you drink from a copper vessel, that will leach copper, and a certain amount of copper is healthy and safe. The other thing that you might use is, especially in India, where we have a pretty good contingency, they're like clay vesicles. Yeah. And as long as the dirt is clean and there's no lead in it or anything like that, it should be safe. But again, if you're not sure, glass and good stainless is where I would stick.
Thank you. And I also want to add on that, many, and the reason why we tell you to switch away from plastics because of the chemicals that are leached into the water, right? Especially here in Florida, these factories where all the water bottles are, they're not going to be air conditioned. It's going to be under heat, and a lot of the chemicals that are in the lining of the plastic is going to get into the water. And we have talked about like xenoestrogens before, but that's typically what comes in that's what the breakdown is from when you're eating processed foods, when you're having foods or livestock that has been treated with antibiotics. The chemicals, the pesticides that are on our lawns, all of that gets into our food supply. Either through or our drinking supply, right? And they create xenoestrogens, which are endocrine disruptors and mimic estrogen in our body, but not in a good way.
Let's say that again. So what Jocelyn has said, and I want to just make sure it registers, is that fake estrogens, otherwise known as xeno, Xeno estrogens, fake estrogens are not good for you. It's not a good replacement for natural bioidentical estrogen because they come in and do the things that estrogen does, but not in a health promotion way. So when you bring in fake estrogens and then you are still having issues with low estrogen state, and then you add in good estrogen, you get a net effect, which may be too much estrogenic effect. But it's because you got too many of these xenoestrogens in you. So how do you, listen, you probably accumulated some just by living on this earth. If you live outside of some very remote village that is not a byproduct of modern society, you probably have been exposed to xenoestrogens. And you can't help it to a certain extent. And that's why your goal is to limit new toxins coming in through your water and clean food. And then what do you do to help get the old ones out? Love your liver. Be good to your liver, because that's the thing that's going to get the xenoestrogens out. Okay, I'm done preaching. It's just something, like women, we do these things so ignorantly, not knowing we're hurting ourselves. And these are like powerful things we keep doing.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure that we threw that in today because I think it's very important. So overall, how can women track the progress and adjust their plans over time?
I think, first of all, it's important for women to pay attention to their body I don't know about you, but I was trained to just ignore my body and keep working. There are women who are really body aware, and then some of us who just tune it out because I got to get to work. I got to take care of the kids. I got to get this project done. And you're not paying attention to what your body is saying. So number one, start to listen to your body. Keep a journal if you have to of things that you're doing and what the impact is. Like you might notice that when you start eating, for example, liver-loving vegetables, like we just mentioned, you might notice your acne gets better. You might notice your menstrual migraines went away. You might notice your brain fog goes away. And if you are not tracking in some way, you won't have positive reinforcement for doing that behavior because Jocelyn, how many times do patients come in and we go through this and they're looking for one benefit, which I'm just going to call it weight loss, because like women get so hinged on their weight that while they're doing healthy things, they don't recognize all the other achievements they've made because they don't look the way they want to in the mirror just yet. But they're ignored, and so that they give up on these healthy behaviors because they're not tracking the cause and effect. Oh yeah, I don't have headaches anymore. Well, wouldn't that be a reason to keep continuing your nutrition or exercise plan? Oh gosh, you know what? I just noticed that my bone density got better with all this exercise I'm doing. Okay, yeah, you might not have pushed on the scale as much, but if your bone density got better, you're saving your life for the future. That's a huge risk for death in women. And you can't work on it at age 75. You got to work on it in your 30s and 40s and 50s.
Good. I think too, for tracking the progress is tracking your bowel movements, right? You mentioned that many times before, but I think that, a lot of times I'll hear, well, I really don't look at it. I'm like, well, look at it because it really tells you if you're eating well, because the hormones aren't going to fix it. We need to, get to the bottom cause, which is likely from your diet. There's that scale that I know that we refer to in functional medicine, Dr. Saxena, when you're looking at the characteristics of a bowel movement.
Oh, the Bristol stool chart.
Yes. Yeah.
And so let me just tell you what my perfect poop would look like that I would ask you to keep an eye out for, okay? A perfect poop, and I use the word poop. Sorry, that's just the way some people call it. It's an okay word. I just want you to know if it's okay for me to say Jocelyn and I both poop. This is a given that we all do it. And although it might feel like, ew, that's so rude, that sounds so distasteful, people, you know what? Our grandmothers asked about our poops all the time. They didn't think anything of it. You ask a grandmother, to ask you if you're sick, she's going to ask you, how did you eat? How did you sleep? How did you poop? Those are 3 great litmus tests. So how do you know if you're pooping well? Well, let's start with quantity. 1 to 3 a day. Some people are one time in the morning poopers. Some people do something after each meal, but 1 to 3. If you are skipping days, it is not healthy. It is not normal. It could be average. You could be in the average of what a lot of sick people do, but it is not normal. You must clear out the garbage at least once a day. It's one of the biggest garbage waste management holes available to you. Okay, your colon. Then, number 2, the quality of it. It should be toothpaste consistency, soft, formed, and it comes out in a snake-like shape. Okay, I usually kind of say it like it ballet dances down into the toilet bowl. Why is that? Because your bowels are shaped like an S. And if your stool is soft enough, it should have the shape of that last part of your colon, which is called your sigmoid colon. And so when it comes out, just like if you, sorry of these visuals, but you should just get a sense of them, like soft serve ice cream comes out like a wavy form. If your bowel movements are coming out like torpedoes, that's too firm. In the Bristol stool chart, it's too firm. It means they're hard, which means either you're lacking fiber, you're lacking hydration, you're lacking acid or digestive enzymes, but something is not right if you are having torpedoes. Okay, it should dance into the toilet bowl. It should not shoot into the toilet bowl or bomb into the toilet bowl. Okay. Then obviously the other part of quality is there should be no blood. There should be no mucus. There should be no color other than some version of medium to dark brown. It should not be black and tarry. It should not be yellow. It should not be gray. It should not be white. It should not have a lot of undigested food that should be digestible. Obviously, if you have like corn kernels in there, those are things that just cannot be digested by the human gut, acceptable. But if the salad that you're eating is showing up in small pieces in your stool mixed in, you're lacking digestive function. Okay. The other thing about a bowel movement that makes it healthy is that it's spontaneous. Your own colon should be able to do the milking necessary for the bowel movement to come out on its own. You should not have to push. If you are pushing, something's wrong. Okay? Because if it's soft serve, your colon's like, thank you, that's soft enough. I'll get it out for you. You just relax. And that is something you have to do on the toilet bowl. You have to be able to relax. And then the last thing for a proper healthy bowel movement is it should be complete, which means you shouldn't have some of it come out and, and then you think you're done. And then 10 minutes later, you have to go back to the toilet bowl because another 50% of it still has to come out. That could mean that for some reason, it's not really like packaging itself into one complete package ready for disposal. Is it always bad? No, but it could be, especially if you have other signs and symptoms of unhealthy bowel movements, as I've just listed. If you have blood in your stools, that is an automatic. Go to the doctor, make sure it's hopefully just a hemorrhoid, but to make sure it's not colon cancer or any other kind of pre-dangerous kind of situation. All right, that was a little side on bowel movements, but Jocelyn and I know that that is one of the biggest things we work on with our hormone patients because they think, oh, I'm pooping. I'm like, yeah, but are you pooping well? Are you a super pooper? Our goal is to be super poopers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I know in the past we've talked about that before, and you've explained how estrogen can be held up in the bowel and then it just goes back into the gut, and it's never really being utilized in your bloodstream. So I just wanted us to kind of reinforce that to all of our participants here. Another thing too about progressing. So Dr. Saxena already shared about journaling and monitoring your symptoms. If you are choosing to do bioidentical hormones, so we definitely would want you to pick a provider who's going to be checking your lab. So that's one way of tracking your progress by lab results. Here at Forum Health, when we have women on our special injectable program, we're monitoring their labs monthly, right? So you want to make sure that you have someone who has eyes on you whenever they're giving you any kind of treatment. And that's one example of monitoring your progress.
Yeah. And listen, you don't need labs forever, but you need them enough to be able to track safety. And why? Because we're dynamic over time. So who you are when you start hormones could be very different than who you are even 6 months later. And the dose that worked for you, at this stage of perimenopause may not be the dose for you 6 months later when you're full menopause, or some other factor that affects your entire hormone balance. So yes, thank you for bringing that up, Jocelyn. Lab testing, that was a key difference we have from your standard conventional OBGYN or PCP is that we believe in regular monitoring of your hormones. Now, of course, you don't have to check it every month once you hit your goal levels with the right amount of hormone, and we assess safety and we say, oh, this is working, great. We might go 3, maybe even 6 months, depending on the person and the hormones, before we check again. But in the beginning, it really makes sense to make sure that the dose you're taking matches with a safe level as well as correcting your symptoms.
Thank you. I'm going to change a little bit of a track and head back to, you mentioned about nutrition and stress management. We're going to be a little bit more specific with exercise. Is there anything else other than strength training that women can start incorporating in their daily lives?
Yeah, let me tell you, I do not like strength training. The whole idea of going to a gym and picking up dumbbells, it just makes me want to vomit. Okay. Now listen, I know I have to do it. So I may not be ready to make that my first step. So walking is, well, let me tell you, the first step is moving every hour for 5 minutes. Okay. If you can't like do structured exercise, remember, if you want to stop being sedentary, and sedentary means you sit on your bum for 6 to 8 hours, not getting up more than 6 to 8 times during that time. Okay. So the first goal is stop being sedentary, which is different than the next goal of exercise, which is to get around 150 minutes for the week. Now, if you think about their 7 days, I tend to be like a 20 to 30-minute person a day. I'd rather whittle away at my 150 a little at a time. Now, there's some of you who are like, you know what? I want to go hit the gym and do an hour. Okay. Your goal is to try to get to 150 minutes of structured exercise. Cardio, which could be like an inclined treadmill. It could be dance. Listen, I love dance as exercise. It could be, HIIT workouts. You want to keep those as part of your routine. Consider putting them after your strength training. You want to use your energy when you've got the most power to build those muscles first. And let me tell you, I don't like dumbbells. I just don't like them. And I know I'm supposed to do them. So guess what I'm doing? I'm doing a lot of things with body weight. I'm doing push-ups and squats, and I'm doing mobility exercises where I'm in a plank and I'm doing burpees, because I personally get mental when I hold a dumbbell. Okay. And I've tried it. I'll do it from time to time, but I find that I'm more likely to keep exercising if I'm doing planks and Pilates and those kinds of exercises. And that's where I am right now. Will I ever become the exercising person I'm telling you to do with the heavy weights? I did it for 6 months. And then I realized, I'm not liking this. I'm going to stop exercising and I don't want to risk that. So I found something else that I wanted to do. So number one, find something you like to do. Don't be sedentary, and then work up towards anything that puts physical stress on your bones and muscles so that they can. I still think the exercises I'm doing is putting strain on my bones so they can become stronger. Mm-hmm. And then I have my hormones on board to really take advantage of the Pilates and planks and burpees and jump squats and all that I'm doing, so that the bones are like, okay, thank you. There's estrogen here. There's testosterone here. I'll make some bone for you, Shilpa. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. I recently read too that 15 minutes of rapid walking was just as sufficient as 30 minutes of cardio.
Yes. There's a lot of data, like some of the Japanese studies that come mm-hmm. out, that you could do high intensity interval walking, mm-hmm. which training is usually what we think about for cardio boot camp, but absolutely. And so, find what works for you. Some form of exercise is always better than none. Don't feel like you've got to go do some textbook version of exercise for it to count. You'll see, I always like to think of my grandmother who lived till 88, and she was one of the healthiest 88-year-olds that I knew. And she never went to a doctor, even though she had so many grandchildren that were doctors. Every specialty was covered. She got a cardiologist and internal medicine. She had all never went to any of us, never asked us any questions, because she just stayed active in New York City, climbing stairs, squatting down to take care of her great-grandchildren. She ate nothing that came out of a can. She prayed every single day. She slept well because, she prayed every day and she was with her family. So I just want to remind you, there's tons of people around the world who don't go to a gym and they live forever and they're very healthy. You can create functional exercise that works for you too.
What are some practical tips for maintaining mental health and emotional resilience during menopause?
First of all, knowing that you're not going crazy when your hormones are shifting. I will tell you, if you don't know what can happen in these transitions, you might think, what's wrong with my brain? I can't remember names. Do I have dementia? Can't tell you how many 40-something-year-olds come in. They're like, I think I'm having dementia. And I'm like, no, you probably just have estrogen deficiency. That's why your brain's not working. And that really scares women. I do think low progesterone makes us very prone to anxiety, worry, sleep disturbance. That's a big form of mental health issues. Having low estrogen makes us more prone to depression and anxiety. So knowing that so much of mental health issues, especially in your late 30s, 40s, 50s, is around hormone shifting is one of the biggest things that you can be doing so that you just don't go down the, oh, I guess I'm depressed, let me get a drug. Now, listen, you may need one, but I'm just saying it may not be that. And working with a trained hormone health professional, you might find that the solution is more related to your biology versus your circumstances. Having said that, if your biology is off with hormones, it makes it a lot easier to develop a psychiatric condition like a full-out sleep disorder or a full-out anxiety or depression that requires prescription therapy outside of hormones. So mind-body medicine is super important. We talked about meditation, mindfulness, finding things that help you get into that Zen state, if you will. For some people, it's gardening. For some people, it's art. But we've deep breathing. We've got to find sacred time, allotted time to give our mind a break, reduce the quantity of your thoughts, improve the quality of your thoughts, and change the direction towards something positive. Quantity, quality, and direction of your thoughts will go a long way towards your mental health.
Mm-hmm. As well as building strong support systems. I know that we've talked about that, right? Recent in our last session about that. Can we just do a quick little summarization on that for everyone?
Yeah. Well, listen, we really sometimes forget how powerful our community's impact is on us. Okay. So we said it earlier here, show me your friends, I'll show you your future. Mm-hmm. And that means like being a part of a community like this, where women are trying to learn and improve health. What a great influence that is. Perhaps you go to a church or a temple where people tend to be more positive. That's a great community to consider. Maybe it's a health and fitness gym that you like to be around people who are active, because, you know, for me, I love to surround myself. There's this other saying that is, never be the smartest person in the room. Because, you know, where's your stretch goal if you're the smartest person in the room? You want to be able to be around people who challenge you, who stretch you in a more favorable path. So please, 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 when we talked about toxicity, people can be very toxic. And if we talk about detoxification, what you may need to do is either figure out a way to remove toxic people from your ecosystem, but if that person happens to be your mother or mother-in-law and you cannot remove that person from your life, then the goal would be to potentially create a healthy boundary or a proper mindset when contacting and communicating with people that you don't have a choice of detoxifying.
My 98-year-old mother-in-law told me that her mother told her, this is back in the 1940s, she said, show me your friends and I will tell you who you are.
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah.
I definitely, and you know, we knew that as a society a long time ago, you know, before all this social media, internet stuff came along, like we really relied on our communities for our information, for our mental health. You know, we didn't used to doom scroll through TikTok or Instagram to get our kicks. Now, listen, I don't think technology is bad. One of the lessons I've learned from my spiritual teacher is nothing is good or bad. It's your relationship to it that is what determines if it's good for you or working or not working. So the classic example I always give my patients is water. Now you would think I would say water is good for you. Not if you're drowning. So your relationship to water when you're drowning is not a positive one. So water in and of itself is not good or bad. It's your relationship to water. Now, if you're a dehydrated person and your kidney is begging you for water, then water is good for you. So look at people, look at lifestyle choices, and look at your relationship to them. Yeah, like alcohol. It's not good or bad, but your relationship to alcohol is very telling.
How can women share their progress and milestones? What are some of the things that they can do as they navigate through menopause, other than reflecting on personal growth, like you've mentioned before? How can they reward themselves?
I think one of the best things that we could be rewarding ourselves with is, number one, taking care of ourselves first.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, like keep saying that you're important. Keep reminding yourself you got to put the mask on yourself before you can take care of the children, the partner, the parents, work. You are important. That's huge. So the best reward you can give to yourself is remind yourself that you are the most important person you have to take care of. And then consider finding ways to do lovely self-care. Like I love the concept of soaking in a tub. I mean, mentally, it just sounds really good. Now, you ask me how many times in a given year I actually, with a tub, sit in it. And I don't follow my own advice perfectly. Okay, guys, I'm not even trying to tell you that I'm like some perfection of lifestyle. But I know that whenever I do plan and I do actually sit and soak in a tub, I don't know if I love it, but I love the idea that I'm doing it, that it signals to me like, you're safe, you're fine, you have enough time to do this, the world is not falling apart around you. Perhaps that's gardening for you. Perhaps that's taking 3 hours to go hang out somewhere in nature. Whatever it is, reward yourself. And hopefully you can create rewards that are not like rewarding yourself with 6 scoops of ice cream, which will go against your goal, although a little indulgence in ice cream doesn't hurt anybody. And then the other thing that's super huge, I think, is, again, have a community that's like rewarding each other and like patting each other on the back. To do these things alone is just very difficult. And, in general, humans are not meant to do things alone.
We are social creatures, for sure.
Yeah.
And our present webinar is a good example of that. It's one platform that you can use to get the information you need to share your stories, like you have been on the WhatsApp. If you go to Facebook nowadays, and if you just Google, just put in the search of perimenopause and menopause, all of a sudden you're going to see all of these social groups now that have come out of, it seems like, nowhere. I think some of you may already be familiar with I Do Not Care, or Do Not Care. These are just women that are speaking out. They feel like they finally have reached that freedom where they can talk about the phases of perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause and feel accepted. I think that's also another avenue for you to look at, and to kind of throw things out there. But it's really more for like a venting. It's just a nice way to vent, get that off your chest. But using that as one way of a support system is a great thing to have.
And if I could just piggyback on that, just having been in this field for a long time and, having a love of philosophy and spirituality at the same time, one of the things that I noticed as I was kind of working through my career in medicine and doing patient care is how certain phases of a woman's natural life, like pregnancy or menopause, is classified as a disease almost. Oh, you're pregnant. Okay, like as though you're diseased now. We've got to not do this or do this. And it's almost like you become sick. And that's why, of course there's modifications, but it's almost like you're pregnant and then you're in menopause. I would invite, that's not a healthy way to look at it. The mindset is, hey, I'm pregnant. And hoping that it was a planned one, but if not, still, it's a beautiful asset that women can create life. It's not a disease. And in the same way, menopause and perimenopause and this whole stage is not a disease. What it is a transition into another important part of a woman's life. And let me explain this from a scientific basis. For a long time, women and society have been led to believe through the scientific evolutionary lens that the woman's purpose is to reproduce, okay, to create offspring so that the human race continues. Now, that's not wrong. But then the question is, if that's the case, when women go through menopause, why aren't we evolutionarily signaled to just die? I mean, our purpose is over if that's the only thing we were meant to do is reproduce. Why aren't we just dying? Why do we actually live longer than men? Why would evolution or God have women live longer after reproductive phase is over? Think about this. Women are the main carriers of wisdom. And if you want the next generation or the grandchildren generation to learn from the past, it's a woman that's generally responsible for transferring wisdom. And that is evolutionarily a necessity. That's why we continue to live beyond reproductive capacity. We are essential. So when you go from reproductive as your gift to wisdom as your gift, that is not a disease. It's a transition. Okay, so don't look at these things. It's just a transition. Not always fun, just like pregnancy, not always fun. But gifts come with responsibilities. And so when we're transitioning out, I just look at it as like, okay, I'm phasing out of the part where I get to give the gift of life. And now I'm phasing into the stage of my life where I give the gift of wisdom. Consider that. And then this won't feel like such a punishment.
You just answered my next question about the whole mindset. Really, that's perfect. This is what you've just been explaining kind of helps women, embrace a stage just as an opportunity for growth and empowerment. I mean, you know.
I'm psychic too at this age.
Yes, I think so. I do want to mention something important. We were talking a little bit about self-compassion and self-care and, why is it important? I wanted to mention, and we have talked about this in our last webinar too, is in our last session, I should say. It's not only just strengthening yourself as a woman and your partnerships with your children, your parents, your partner, spouse. It's also your provider. And I want to bring this out because I think everyone, I would hope, would leave today knowing that I want you to share your experience with your provider, whether it's a primary care or gynecologist, and tell them, how this experience has been for you. And, open them up. Sometimes you have to kind of go in there and say, hey, this is what's happening. And I think it's because I'm in perimenopause. Please, let's address it together. What can we do? So be your best advocate. And if you've already been started, like, for example, you've already been on hormone therapy, maybe with a hormone specialist, you're doing bioidenticals, well, take that success story to your primary care provider. We're all learning how to change our path and not live from the past of a study, this large base study that really created a lot of negative bias towards how we were prescribing hormones. So definitely, open their eyes to what is out there. And that, certainly as an example, bioidentical hormones is extremely, very, very safe and has been the game changer for many women.
Yeah. And I think that is the capacity of women to be educators and to be, like I said, the transmitters of wisdom. And sometimes you'll see this. Women generally make up 70% of the healthcare decision-making in the world. Like, they're the ones who are in charge of the healthcare of a family, mostly. They're the ones who are like, we're going to go see this doctor. You need to see a doctor. This is not that they're leading the healthcare charge in the family. And they tend to be the biggest advocates for something they're learning is working. And like Jocelyn said, we're in the midst of a big transition here from this false rhetoric of the last 30 years And, there's many providers who are still stuck in that rhetoric, and they are not staying up to date with what is happening with the evidence. And so if you are working with one of those providers who is not advancing themselves or is not open to learning what you now know is the latest in health promotion medicine for women, then I suggest you find someone who actually is willing to stay current. It's kind of like, why would you go seek an expert who is still operating with a Nokia phone? There's so much better technology that's available, and you want someone who's willing and brave enough to live on that edge and say, listen, I'm doing the science, I'm listening to my patients, and I want to make them better because they deserve the safest, best option that we know is available today. So take care of yourself. I want to also remind, please ask your questions right now in the chat. I think there is a question.
Yes, there is.
Look at, if you'd like, Jocelyn.
Yep, from Crudy. When you start taking hormones after menopause, do you gain weight from estrogen, progesterone? And how long, on average, HRT can be safe or recommended?
Okay, these are very common questions. There's two questions here. So let's take the first one. When you begin hormones, do you gain weight? Well, here's the interesting thing. If your liver is not healthy, if your gut is not healthy, you are much more likely to gain weight from anything, okay? Because estrogen and progesterone, they're not actually causing the weight gain. They're creating health and healing. And part of health and healing is removing old garbage. And if your liver and your bowels are not working well, it's going to be harder to eliminate what this youth hormone set is trying to do with your body. So if you are gaining weight when placed on hormones, I really think you need to look at your gut and your liver. The other thing that can happen is if you're not paying attention to other hormones like thyroid and cortisol and insulin, again, estrogen and progesterone come in and bring this youth factor in. But if you're still imbalanced with thyroid, insulin, or cortisol, again, it's not that the estrogen and progesterone is doing it. It's just highlighting it for you to see, like, hey, there's this imbalance. You better go take care of it. So I wouldn't say it's causal, but it is associated with it because it sheds light on other things that are out of balance. So that's what I would say. And also, there's a lot of bad habits that we do around this stage, right? We're probably like, oh, I'm not sleeping well. Oh, I'm going to have a bit more alcohol, wine o'clock, all the things. Like, it's not the estrogen and progesterone. It's that with what you probably need to be working on: nutrition, exercise, sleep, stress management. And then anything else to add for you on that, Jocelyn?
No, I would just say, like, a lot of my friends, I'll look at their habits and they're like, I don't understand why I'm not losing weight. I'm like, okay, drop the bagel, drop the glass of wine, just some simple things, for them to, then you'll start seeing it. But after, since I've been doing, directing our hormone program here, our bioidentical hormone program, I've seen after about 3 months, women do actually they lose about 5 pounds, or they'll just notice that the fat is distributed differently, a little bit more firm. So the clothes are fitting a little more loose. So I find that, yes, definitely, like Dr. Saxena said, if you are working on a clean gut and you're exercising, you're going to start seeing those benefits.
And the other thing is that in functional medicine, we definitely believe in replacing testosterone. Low T is something that women deal with. And when you replace testosterone, you will gain muscle. And that will look like weight on the scale, but your clothes will be fitting differently, and your power during your workouts, you'll have more strength. So even though that might look like weight gain, that is what we want to gain, which is muscle. So don't confuse weight on the scale as always fat. You want to look at all the other parameters. And I can't agree with Jocelyn more. Hormones is not some like get out of jail free solution for all your bad habits. It is absolutely not. You can't take estrogen or testosterone and think that's going to negate your bagel and your wine intake. No, those are calories. Like, that's just mathematics. Okay. Now, the other question, we've had this asked, I think, multiple times, which is how long can you take things on average, meaning HRT, for it to be safe? Now, I'm going to ask you, how happy are people on average? Well, it's an impossible question to answer because I think I'm going to be happy for a long time, but I know some people in my life that are very, stuck in being miserable. And so the answer for my miserable counterpart is very different than for me. And the same is for HRT and safety. I will tell you, women can be on HRT for as long as they want, so long as they are tracking levels and safety throughout the process. There is no magic number that says at age 65 stop, or age 75 you should stop. There's nothing like that in the evidence. It is a personalized answer. And if I were to tell you, most people could take it for 5 years without a problem, it would just be a lie, because one woman's 5 years is very different than another woman's 5 years. And the other thing that I will say is that would you ever run a business where you add a new piece of machinery and then you never track if it's helping or if it's hurting your business? No, you would never do that. You'd have to track. And that's one of the things that Jocelyn has mentioned. Like, you've got to track your progress, and then you continuously make a decision as to, listen, these hormones have helped me sleep. They're giving me muscle. They're improving my bone density, and my brain works a lot better. Now, are those important benefits to me? For me, Shilpa Saxena, those are vital for me at this stage in life. So the benefit of hormones, and then I put that up against my risks, which for my personal risk score is low. So I'm like, I'm going to continue. Now, when I'm 75 and let's say I have lovely bones, and for whatever reason, I decide, you know what, I'm just going to be very minimalist and I want to stop hormones because that's my new, more important belief system. Maybe I'll stop my hormones. And if my brain goes, I'll be like, I don't know if I want to be this way, but that's my decision to make at that time. Maybe I'll be like, I don't need my brain the way I used to when I was in my 50s. I can be okay with this. I'm willing to not have the estrogen because this brain function right now is great for me. It's enough. That's how you answer that question. Mm-hmm. And then, Kruti, your question about contraindications. Jocelyn, do you want to take that on, since I know
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So I would like to tell you that there are really no contraindications for hormone therapy or bioidentical hormone therapy. However, there are precautions we have to take. Okay. So a woman who had a hormone positive breast cancer. So ideally we wait until 5 years. They've made it through the 5 years. They've finished, if they were already taking an estrogen receptor blocker and they've completed therapy, then it would be safe for us to start it. But we usually will ask the oncologist and make sure that they're cleared with it too. And then if there's a coagulation disorder, because those are the two biggest concerns that people have, is what about my history of cancer and what about my history of having a blood coagulation disorder? In that respect, we know that bioidentical estrogen does not cause blood clots. However, again, we're still, we still have that thought process that estrogen's bad, it's going to cause blood clots. But what we do to make everyone feel more comfortable is we will use a transdermal patch because it bypasses the liver, and the liver is where the clotting cascade occurs. So that's one way how we manage it, because, when we have a relationship with our patient, we want both of us to feel safe and that we're doing the best thing for you.
Very good. I'm going to write this. A trained professional knows how to adjust the delivery method to reduce the risks and offer the greatest benefit at the same time, right? Like for some women, a patch is their safe option and they can't do the injectable. But for many women, the injectable is a great option because of convenience, or because, their skin gets super irritated from the adhesive on the patch, or they're forgetful. They keep forgetting to change out the patch, and they're not getting a steady state. So their estrogens are wonky, and that's causing issues. And if you just do a once a month shot, the convenience is a much bigger value. So again, working with a provider that has a very expanded toolkit and will listen to you to understand what part of the toolkit to pull out. If I love painting, and I can do a lot with red, yellow, and blue because I know how to mix them. But I will tell you, there's a lot of providers out there who only know how to use red, yellow, and blue, and they don't even understand mixing and personalizing to match what the woman needs at that stage in her health journey, her hormone journey.
We have one final question. Should testosterone be taken with estrogen and progesterone? Yes. The three of them, actually, I just call it the little love triangle. They work in harmony together. And there's been so much information out about testosterone replacement therapy for men, but now it's become more popular for women. I think Dr. Saxena, we just may spend just a few seconds talking about that since we are at the end of our webinar, but we could round it up with that.
Yeah. So for many women, estrogen and progesterone is what is offered through the traditional model. But again, functional medicine tends to be around 10 to 20 years ahead of the curve. So in 10 to 20 years, they'll probably have something related to testosterone for women. But there is testosterone products available for women in functional medicine offices. And what we find is, and from my own personal experience, low T, which is very common in perimenopause, is very highly associated with fatigue, brain fog, poor bones, inability to lose weight, inability to put on muscle. Now you tell me what perimenopausal or menopausal woman does not want those benefits. Very few. And that's why Jocelyn and a lot of our patients will confirm that when you're able to get the right balance of the love triangle, I love it, the love triangle, getting those in the right ranges, it's like you're young again, and your body really likes to heal in that way. So it's 1:34. So we do want to wrap up. Jocelyn, about Jocelyn, then me, and then we hand it off to Sneha to do the last remarks.
Okay. I just want to say thank you again for joining the session. It's been just a very exciting experience for me. And my personal story is that, for me, bioidentical hormones has worked very well. And I can say that I'm going to grow old like everyone else, but I'm going to age gracefully because of it.
Yeah, it's a choice, which is lovely. And that's the beauty of everything that we taught you is that you have choices in the matter, informed choices in the matter. So, it's probably likely that you'll need to listen to the webinars a couple more times. And that's when you're going to get the confidence to then take the next step, whatever it is, whether it's to eat a piece of broccoli as the biggest achievement of your entire life so far. But if you've already done that, maybe it's exercise, or maybe it is that you finally see that you do need to get some labs done and get your hormones evaluated because you may benefit. And Sneha, we're going to pass it off to you then.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Shilpa. Thank you, Jocelyn. It has been a wonderful journey over the past 3 months. How gradually you've made it so simple. We have to learn shedding of our inhibitions, speak for ourselves, make our informed choices. And it's really been very wonderful how you both have been sending this message along with the credible information that you're sharing with us. Amazing, amazing. Thank you from all of us. And thank you to all our attendees and members who show up consistently. They also show up commitment to their health when they are here. So big thank you to them, and they must keep doing it. Keep sending your messages to the WhatsApp group, and we will soon be sharing more information that's coming up. Lots of health and lots of love, and thank you all.
Thank
you, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.